Yes, ma'am.
WPF 25, I was wondering what how this was able to happen, and for future reference, is there any security in the golf course?
I didn't hear all that. Say that one more time and talk up a little bit.
So how was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any security in the golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery. So when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right? And at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter. But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
Which direction was the shrubbery? Was north, south? I guess east, west, south of the road?
The layout of the golf course, you've got 3 holes, 5, 6, and 7. All right? One of them runs parallel to Summit Boulevard. One of them runs parallel to Congress. And he was in an area in the shrubbery where he could see both holes. So the president was another hole back, which means he's about between 400 and 500 yards away.
So he was on the golf course?
Oh, he's on the golf course, yeah, but he's back a ways.
For the Secret Service, have you guys changed at all the way that you guys are protecting former President Donald Trump? This is now a potential second attempt on him. Can you just elaborate on how things have changed and what you make of all this?
Yes, the threat level is high. We have increased the amount of assets that we've supported, so we live in danger times. So yes.
We're done with questions right now. There's really nothing more for us to add. I just want to tell you, the Secret Service and the FBI and the State Attorney's Office have been fantastic to work with. And I can tell you right now, our agency with this real-time crime center was fabulous. That's how we got the guy. We started out with, we don't know anything, to where we had a tag, we had a vehicle description, and we got an area where we saw the person. So be proud of your law enforcement. All right, thanks, folks. We'll get back to you.
So that the Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw ending that news conference by saying they all should be proud of their law enforcement officers. He spoke initially describing events first unfolding at about 1:30 in the afternoon when shots were fired, and that was called in by the Secret Service. A witness was located who saw a man jump into a black Nissan. The witness was then able to identify the suspect and an AK-47 style rifle, and 2 backpacks were spotted and found by the Secret Service. It is just gone at 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10 with the breaking news tonight that one person has been arrested and an assault rifle recovered. Let's take you through what we know so far. Well, NBC are reporting that a rifle has been recovered after gunshots were fired near the Trump International Golf Course in Florida, where Donald Trump was playing golf. One person is being questioned, believed to be the person with the weapon outside the fence line of the golf course. Witnesses reported that 20 or more police cars were seen in nearby streets. We've heard from the White House a statement saying that they are pleased that Donald Trump is safe. Kamala Harris says that she's glad that he is safe and that violence has no place in America. Donald Trump himself has released a statement in which he said that he's safe and well, and he said, "I will never surrender." Well, let's show you those images brought to us backpacks were found, and the firearms, the AK-47 type weapon, found near Donald Trump's golf course. In the news conference, they suggested that a Secret Service agent had spotted a rifle sticking out of of the fence, and on seeing that, had opened fire. It wasn't clear as to whether the suspect returned fire or shot at Secret Service agents, but they did open fire on the suspect on seeing that rifle sticking out of the perimeter fence of the golf course. Well, let's see the news conference again. That's at the start, well, still at the news conference. Obviously, all the attendees have now left, but we did hear from Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw, followed by a Secret Service representative. We then heard from the FBI, who said they're assuming role as the lead federal law enforcement agency in the now ensuing investigation. These are the pictures shown in that news conference of the gun and the backpacks found at that perimeter fence of the golf course. Let's cross to our US correspondent, Mark Stone, who's standing by in Washington. Mark.
Good afternoon, Gillian from Washington. Just gone 5 o'clock in the afternoon here, and the news this hour is a second apparent assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump. It was shortly after 1:30 this afternoon that the Secret Service put out a call saying shots fired on the Trump International Golf Course near former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach. And very quickly, a multi-agency operation swept into action. The president was moved away from the scene very, very quickly, taken back to his Mar-a-Lago resort. And what we have now learnt in that news conference is quite a bit of information. One man was spotted with a rifle poking through a fence somewhere near the 4th or the 5th hole on the Trump International Golf Course. This was 1 or 2 holes ahead of where Donald Trump was at that point playing golf. We understand that the way the Secret Service works is that they have bubbles, so some agents are 1 or 2 holes ahead of the president as he's progressing around the golf course. That was the case this afternoon, and it was one of those agents ahead of Donald Trump, a hole or 2 ahead, who spotted this rifle sticking through the fence. We then understand that the Secret Service opened fire and a man fled the scene. At the time that this was happening, the local police received information from a witness who said he had seen the man with the gun. He described a black Nissan vehicle. He showed the police pictures of that. And so a call was put out, and very quickly the person in that vehicle was detained. Now, what you have heard from what you've seen from those images is 2 backpacks, a GoPro, and an AK-47 style rifle, all of which were discovered at the scene at that point where the Secret Service saw the rifle poking through the fence. So those 2 backpacks and the GoPro, and indeed the contents of that GoPro, whatever was being recorded on that camera, will now form a key part of the investigation, as will interviews with the suspect. We don't know his identity. They kept referring to the person as he, so I think we can assume that it is a man for sure, although the identity has not been revealed. You can see the fence there through which that rifle was poking. You can see the GoPro to the left on that right-hand image. To the left, I think that is the GoPro. 2 backpacks there as well. And then somewhere, although I can't make it out there, the rifle, yes, the rifle in the foreground as well. So a huge amount of information that the police have and the authorities have now got to go on. This is an investigation that will be led by the FBI. I was struck that the agent at the end there, who I think was from the local sheriff's office, was at pains to point out that all the agencies involved, including the Secret Service, of course, so heavily criticised with the first assassination attempt back in July. The Secret Service, so said the sheriff's office, have done a very good job, as indeed have the FBI. Remember, among the base of Donald Trump's support, there are many people who do not trust authorities like the Secret Service, like the FBI, and others as well. And so to hear an official on camera there saying, you must thank your law enforcement, trust in them because they have saved a life today, effectively was what the sheriff's office were saying. Below me there, you can see images of Donald Trump's motorcade. That made its way swiftly back to Mar-a-Lago, which is about a 10-minute drive from the golf course itself. Donald Trump is safe. Indeed, he released a statement a little bit earlier on today, and I can read it to you. He said, there were gunshots in my vicinity, but before rumors start spiraling out of control, I want you to hear from me first. I am safe and well. Nothing will slow me down. I will never surrender. I will always love you for supporting me. And he concludes, peace, unity, peace, make America great again. May God bless you. Signed, Donald J. Trump. So that's the only word we've had from Donald Trump so far. We have heard too from the White House. President Biden and the Vice President have been briefed about the security incident at Trump International Golf Course where former President Trump was golfing. They are relieved to know that he is safe, and their statement concludes that they will be kept regularly updated by their team. So another extraordinary afternoon there, the statement from the White House reflecting on what the FBI is calling another apparent assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump.
Mark, we have heard from Kamala Harris also saying that violence has no place in America and that she's pleased that Donald Trump is safe.
Yes, Kamala Harris, of course, the person who he is facing in the presidential election, which is just weeks away now. She is, I think, on the campaign trail again today. She spends much of the time at the moment out campaigning around the country, but a statement, I don't think you'd expect anything else from Kamala Harris at a moment like this, that she is reflecting on what has happened and is glad, of course, that her opponent, that a former US president, is safe and well.
Mark, thank you. Well, Mark Stone there bringing us up to date with the very latest from Washington on that confirmation from the FBI that they're investigating what appears to be an attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. They're responding. We've had the details from the news conference in Palm Beach we brought to you a little earlier, in which a lot of information was released. The sheriff there saying that the man pointed the rifle through a fence at Trump's golf course, and he was around 400 to 500 yards from the former president. We know that Secret Service agents opened fire. Not clear as to whether the suspect returned that fire, but there is now a suspect in custody. Well, let's speak now to John Bussey, Associate Editor of the Wall Street Journal. Thank you very much for speaking to us this evening. Your reaction to that significant update that the FBI now treated this as an attempted assassination?
Well, it's a sad moment for politics and for America. It's unacceptable. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon. This attempted assassination is just 2 months after the previous shooting in which the former president was in fact wounded. And it follows by days another of America's school shootings in which 2 children and 2 teachers were killed, others were injured. It is an unfortunate aspect of life in America that you not only have these politically motivated shootings, but you have just a consistent amount of gun violence that is part of unfortunately, a part of American culture at the moment.
Where do you think this leaves us in terms of the gun debate, in terms of the accessibility of guns in America?
Yeah, unfortunately, what ends up happening after these shootings, and remember, we've had a lot of them, a lot of these really tragic shootings at schools particularly, but, more than 50 people killed by one person in a shooting from a hotel in Las Vegas a couple of years ago. What ends up happening is that the various positions that exist in the United States tend to get entrenched. And those who are in favor of liberal gun laws say, well, these moments of tragedy are not the time to discuss changing those gun laws. We need to do it in calmer moments. But those calmer moments don't seem to arrive. Part of that is because politics at the moment in the United States are quite divided right down the middle. And so it's hard to get a majority that would be needed to change gun laws. We've seen efforts. They have mostly failed up until now. I don't think that this event is going to change that discussion or that dialogue. Probably what you will see is those who are supporters of President Trump. There is kind of a feeling in that campaign, in the messaging from that campaign, appealing to the aggrieved and those who feel that they are already controlled too much by the government. I think that you'll hear just more of that, and that this will be for them confirmation of their need to own guns, is that there's the possibility of this sort of thing happening, and therefore they need to hold their weapons. And on the other side of the debate, you'll hear people say, you know, are you kidding? This is exactly an example of why assault weapons, they're describing it as an AK-47 type weapon. Those are military style weapons, the purpose for which one can't imagine being needed in a sort of a hunting environment in the United States. AR-15s are similar military style assault weapons. They are pervasive in America at this point. And so I think that the other side of the argument will say something needs to be done. We need to have stricter gun laws so that individuals who are deranged or have political motivations, like this apparent assassin today, do not have easy access to these weapons.
John Bussey, Associate Editor of Wall Street Journal, thank you very much for speaking to us. Let's return to our US correspondent, Mark Stone, in Washington for us. Any further information coming into you, Mark?
No, but just picking up on the points you were discussing there about guns. I mean, clearly it will again raise questions about the ability for people to get hold of weapons. I was just in my taxi on the way here, and I said to the taxi driver what had happened, and he just shook his head and he just said one word. He said guns. I mean, it is so prevalent across this country. And when incidents like this happen, whether it be an assassination attempt against a former president or a school shooting, the country seems to lock in behind two such opposing views. There are those who say, well, why the heck is it so easy to get guns in this country? And then there are those who say we need more guns because clearly we need to be able to protect ourselves. So we need to have the ability to own our own weapon. And there it is. That is the argument summed up. But that's almost a secondary discussion right now. I think the primary discussion, of course, it has got to be, how can it be that after in just such a short space of time, July to now, we can have two attempted assassinations on a former president? I mean, the FBI seems relatively clear that they are treating this as an apparent assassination attempt once again. They are the lead authority investigating this incident now, and at the heart of it will be the man who is now under arrest. Who is he? What were his motivations? What is his political background? All of that will be front and center of an urgent investigation. They'll be looking through his phone. Of course, those two backpacks and the GoPro camera that they have found at the scene. They will be key. What was in the backpacks? What was on the GoPro? Had he already started filming prior to the moment where the Secret Service opened fire? Were any shots fired from that rifle itself? That appeared to me to be unclear from the news conference we heard. It was clear that the Secret Service did fire at the bushes where they saw that rifle poking through the fence, but we don't know at the moment whether any shots were fired from the rifle itself. But it is clear too that a gunman got very close to the former president, between 300 and 500 yards away from Mr. Trump is how the officials described it. I think going forward from now, Donald Trump plays golf very often. I imagine now they will have to put much wider cordons on the golf courses where he plays. I've been up at his Bedminster golf course in New Jersey. where you're able really, or have been able, to get very close to him. You can watch from a public area beyond the golf course perimeter and see the former president as he moves around from hole to hole. I imagine that is something that will no longer be happening if indeed he is to continue to play golf in this period between now and the election itself.
We were told that security was certainly stepped up after the July the 13th assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. It seemingly has happened again, according to the FBI, who are now treating this as an attempted assassination. What further moves can be made to secure Donald Trump?
Well, I think when he is at his rallies, he is about as secure as can be now, almost as secure as a sitting president would be. After the assassination attempt in Butler, they paused outside rallies for a period of time. They then allowed them to take place again, but they did so with the former president behind bulletproof glass. So his podium is surrounded by glass that is bulletproof. It was a requirement put in after what happened in Butler. I think it's also going to be the case that the Secret Service will have reviewed all their processes and procedures after what was clearly a failing at Butler. What seems to be clear from the initial news conference that we had there, that none of the agencies see that there was any failing this time. Indeed, they think it was a success that the gunman was spotted and was taken out, or was prevented from shooting at the former president very, very quickly indeed. But beyond that, it's clear, as I say, that when he is not at rallies, when he's just at other places, whether it be on a golf course, whether it be anywhere else, he will be subject to a greater degree of security given what has unfolded over the past few hours.
And the FBI assuming the lead role as the federal law enforcement agency in this investigation, which we know starts as of this moment, and a suspect in custody.
Yeah, it's standard that the FBI would lock in as the main law enforcement agency looking into this. The FBI has field offices right around the country, and it will be a field office down in Florida that is leading now on an investigation. But it clearly draws in lots of other law enforcement agencies as well, the local police, the local sheriff's office, the Secret Service, others as well, all involved in this. Indeed, as we heard, the suspected gunman was apprehended on the I-95 motorway, the freeway that runs north to south through Florida. And he was apprehended while driving in a black Nissan, apparently trying to escape. So many different agencies involved in this, and I think that explains why in the initial minutes and hours after this news emerged, there was some contradictory or incomplete information, certainly with one agency saying they weren't aware that a weapon had been found. That's because different agencies were just getting their information and collating it together, and that formed that news conference that we heard now. But multi-agencies led by the FBI, and I was struck too that the Sheriff's Office were at pains to point out that all the agencies, that the American people can be proud of all the agencies involved. Remember, as I said before, there is a view among some of Donald Trump's supporters, some of his base of support, that has been frankly fueled by him, that the FBI is not to be trusted, that other federal agencies are not to be trusted. Well, the Sheriff's Office was at pains to point out in that news conference that the FBI is leading on this and they are to be trusted, that they and the others did a very good job this afternoon.
Mark, I just want to bring up a tweet, a statement on X as it is now on social media from J.D. Vance, in which he says, "I'm glad President Trump is safe. I spoke to him before the news was public and he was amazingly in good spirits. Still much we don't know, but I'll be hugging my kids extra tight tonight and saying a prayer of gratitude." So that's the latest from J.D. Vance, who is the vice presidential candidate in this election to take place in November. Do we believe that this incident will change the trajectory of their electioneering in the run-up to November the 5th, Mark?
Well, my first thought seeing that tweet there is it is very apolitical. There is no political dig or political message in anything that J.D. Vance says there. It seems to me to be black and white, very straightforward, and a reflection of of the gravity of the moment, another assassination attempt, so it would seem, against his running mate, his principal, Donald Trump. I have to say some others within the Republican Party have been much more political in their reactions to what has happened. To answer your question, we can only take what happened first time round to reflect on, I guess, and it is the case that after that assassination attempt in July, that supercharged his campaign for a while. It certainly rallied round his base. People rallied round him. His reaction to that was caught on camera, an infamous moment. He survived, the fist in the air. All of that became iconic and certainly helped him in his. There it is. You can see it here. Certainly helped him in his quest for the White House initially, and it drove him, fueled him from that moment into his Republican Party convention just a week or just a few days later. So that iconic image clearly not repeated this time. A lucky escape then, a lucky escape now, it would seem, for the former president. Let's see how it impacts the campaign. I think for now the focus will be on the investigation, on working out the motives behind what happened this afternoon down in Florida.
But we have heard from those this evening, Mark, suggesting that it is Democrat rhetoric that is responsible for this violence against Donald Trump.
Yeah, and quite, and that's what I was referring to, is that I do think that J.D. Vance appears to have just gone straight down the line, a straight bat with his response there, but others not so much. And it's certainly the case that, I remember talking to Eric Trump, Donald Trump's son, a month or so after the assassination attempt, and he was very clear in saying to me, they did this. They caused the assassination attempt. And I said to him, I kept saying to him, who do you mean they? You know, why you seem to be suggesting they in the same breath as the Democrats. He then backtracked and distanced himself from that idea. But it's certainly the case that a proportion of people on the Republican side believe that Democratic Party rhetoric is fueling this anger against Donald Trump. I mean, that is a view for sure, and it is something that the Democrats will be reflecting on. But it is also, frankly, the case that Donald Trump has been doing a lot of his has been fueling a lot of his own divisions with his own rhetoric as well.
And Mark, do you believe that Donald Trump will continue to campaign as normal? Will there be adjustments to the way he campaigns, how often, or on how he's in public?
Yeah, well, there'll certainly be adjustments. There were after the July incident, where, as I say, the bulletproof glass was put up in front of his open-air rallies. And again, I'm sure around his golf courses, perimeters will just be much larger. That's quite easy to put in place. It just requires a change of thinking, which I'm sure will come into place. But it's going to make his ability to campaign and to get out and about and to shake hands, to see real people, it's going to make that much harder, for sure.
OK, Mark, thank you very much for the moment. Mark Stone in Washington for us. Well, let's listen again to the news conference held by the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, with the Secret Service, FBI and State Attorney also in attendance.
We are going to give you, when I say we have a representative from the FBI, from the Secret Service, from the State Attorney's Office. We are going to give you everything we have. Everything. All right? So when we get done, think about your questions, because we're not going to take a lot. And keep them to the information that you heard. Don't get into what ifs, and because of this, we're not going to go there. All right? So keep that in mind, and we'll be good. So here we go. All right, 1:30 this afternoon, call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. and we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the witness that witnessed the incident, flew him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off. So that's what we know about the investigation. We have somebody in custody right now that is a potential suspect. We got a little bit more work to do on it, but as we usually do, as soon as we decide that we're going to book him into the county jail and the charges that he's going to be booked into, we'll get those to you and we'll get a picture of him and we'll get you his background. So now I'm going to turn it over to the representative of the Secret Service, and he's going to make a brief statement.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I first want to thank all of our law enforcement partners, to include the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office and the Martin County Sheriff's Office, for their involvement today. Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed following a protective incident shortly before 2 p.m. on Sunday at Trump International Golf Club at West Palm Beach. The U.S. Secret Service personnel opened fire on a gunman located near the property line, and this matter is under investigation. I'll turn it over to my partners over at the FBI.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Veltri. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office. The FBI has assumed the role as the lead federal law enforcement agency in the investigation of the incident that occurred earlier today at Trump International Golf Course here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We've deployed a number of resources, including investigative teams, crisis response team members, bomb technicians, and evidence response team members as well. What we need right now is for the public to avoid the area around the golf course. We will continue to support this investigation with the full resources of the FBI, alongside our partners with the United States Secret Service and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, as well as Martin County Sheriff's Office and state and local law enforcement. I would ask that if anyone has any information that may assist with this investigation, to contact our tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at tips, that's TIPS .FBI.gov. Thank you.
David?
Hi, I'm Dave Ehrenberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County. I want to thank Sheriff Bradshaw and our partners at the local, state, and federal levels. I'm here because our prosecutors are currently working up warrants and a motion for pretrial detention for the suspect. In that way, he will be kept in custody. But our filing of these warrants and charges at the state level does not preclude federal charges that could be coming. But in the meantime, it looks like the warrants and the pretrial detention motion will happen first. And again, I want to thank the cooperation we've had with our federal partners and at the local level. And thank you all for being here today.
Okay, we're going to make these pictures available to you. It'll show you a picture of the backpack and the rifle. And there's also a GoPro on the fence there where he was intent on filming what was going on. Even though we're going to have to secure a couple of areas around the golf course here, the public doesn't need to panic. We know that we got a post office, a library, and a school down the street. So we'll make it convenient for you to get to all the places you need to go, get your kids to school, get them over here to the post office or wherever else you need to go. It's safe. There's no more danger here, and we'll make it very convenient for you. So having said that, we're going to take a very limited amount of questions, and you can direct them to who you want to answer the question.
Sheriff, did this individual make any statements as he was being detained?
No statement right now as far as his involvement in the incident, and there's further investigation to be completed.
What was his demeanor like?
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe the Secret Service gentleman answered. I misunderstood, or couldn't quite understand. So there was a rifle, so one of your agents saw on the golf course, saw a rifle pointing to a fence. Was it a chain link? Okay, so he saw that, the agent?
That is correct, yes.
And the president or the former president was on the course behind him. How close?
It was 1 or 2 holes behind.
100%.
That, because the bubble moves through the golf course, so our agents will get there first, clear it. He noticed that the rifle was pointed out. Our agents engaged. We are not sure right now if the individual was able to take a shot at our agents, but for sure our agents were able to engage with the
He
subject.
did?
I don't know that.
Doesn't appear so.
Is there a moment?
Yep. Al?
How far away was the president, how far away was Donald Trump when this gentleman was caught and stopped?
Probably between 300 and 500 yards, but with a rifle and a scope like that, that's not a long distance.
For the Secret Service, how far was your agent from the would-be assailant?
That I'm not sure right now. We're still looking into it.
Reports of the 4 rounds of ammunition were fired. Were all 4 of those from your agent?
That is correct. 4 to 6. We're not sure yet.
Was there a long distance? Explaining why?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And on WPF 25, I was wondering what how this was able to happen, and for future reference, is there any security in the golf course?
I didn't hear all that. Good. Say that one more time and talk up a little bit.
So how was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any security in the golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery. So when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right? And at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter. But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
Which direction was the shrubbery where he was? North, south? I guess east, west, and south is the road?
The layout of the golf course, you've got 3 holes, 5, 6, and 7. All right? One of them runs parallel to Summit Boulevard. One of them runs parallel to Congress. And he was in an area in the shrubbery where he could see both holes. So the president was another hole back, which means he's about between 400 and 500 yards away.
So he was on the golf course?
Oh, he's on the golf course, yeah, but he's back a ways.
For the Secret Service, have you guys changed at all the way that you guys are protecting former President Donald Trump? This is now a potential second attempt on him. Can you just elaborate on how things have changed and what you make of all this?
Yes, the threat level is high. We have increased the amount of assets that we've supported, so we live in danger times. So yes.
We're done with questions right now. There's really nothing more for us to add. I just want to tell you, the Secret Service and the FBI and the State Attorney's Office have been fantastic to work with. And I can tell you right now, our agency with this real-time crime center was fabulous. That's how we got the guy. We started out with, we don't know anything, to where we had a tag, we had a vehicle description, and we got an area where we saw the person. So be proud of your law enforcement. All right, thanks, folks. We'll get back to you.
Okay, that's ending the news conference that we brought you earlier there. Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw. These are live pictures of the golf course where the incident happened earlier today at 2 p.m, where Secret Service agents saw weapon pointing through the fence of the perimeter of the golf course. Those are the pictures that they showed us in the news conference of the 2 backpacks that were recovered, and a GoPro camera and the AK-47 style rifle. That's what the Secret Service agents spotted sticking through the fence, at which point they opened fire on the suspect. It's not clear, we haven't had the details as to whether the suspect returned fire, but certainly the Secret Service agents opened fire on the suspect, who fled. And we were told that a witness saw a man jumping into a black Nissan. This witness was able to identify the suspect, who is now in custody. An investigation ensues involved. We have the Secret Service representative that spoke at the news conference, the FBI, the state attorney for Palm Beach County, and finally we heard from Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw. These are the latest pictures of Donald Trump's motorcade after the incident. Obviously still in the campaigning period before the American elections on the 5th of November. We've heard from commentators suggesting that he will continue to campaign, but certainly further elements of security will be put in place after what the FBI are describing as an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. Well, let's speak now to Dr. Walid Fares, foreign policy expert and former advisor to Donald Trump. Good evening to you. Your reaction to the news that this has now been confirmed by the FBI as an assassination attempt.
Good evening to you too, and thank you for having me. Yes, there are 2 directions we are focusing our eyes on. One is basically the bottom-up investigation, and we heard a press conference. We heard comments from experts, from journalists covering this. There are a lot of elements. Unlike in previous attempts or actual assassination in the political history of the United States. Number one, we know about the car. There is a person in custody. There is a gun has been identified. There are bullets that have been identified. That would be for the American justice system more than enough to get to the actual identities, various identities, and obviously try to get to the motives. It's not an easy matter to get to the motives. But on the other hand, there is a context. This is not a matter at this point in time, although it's very early to discuss gun violence, because you have to make distinctions. Is it like the assassination of Kennedy, the assassination of Martin Luther King? They were not about gun violence. They were about political violence in a very, very tough environment like the one we already had 2 months ago, and attempt to assassinate the same person, the same leader. So I think the most important matter from the top-down situation is what has been done right now by Donald Trump, by the Democratic candidate, to calm down the situation, because the worst is to communicate a feeling of distrust, of divisions. We are at 49 days before the election. So let's wait, first of all, what the agencies have to say. And that's what the law enforcement spokespersons have said, that they are interrogating that person in custody, and they will make that information hopefully available to the public.
You say that the political situation needs to be calmed down. How would you characterise it at the moment, and how can the situation be changed?
Well, number one, we have seen over the history of elections, the modern history of elections, that the violence that has been spotted is not a violence of street against street. We are not in the Middle East, we are not in Eastern Europe, but the violence has been by individuals who have been tasked with the violence. So it's even more serious, because that would involve factions, that would involve the arming of the individual, that would involve financing. It is close to terrorism. I don't know if the law enforcement are going to conclude that it is terrorism, but it is very close. They already concluded that this is an actual attempt to assassinate. So that's perturbing. But the good news is that we don't see an American public as a result of these attempts to assassination. And it's not just the candidate of the Republican Party. There were Democrats in past years who have been subject of assassination attempts. But the issue is here to get to the bottom of it and know who is behind it. If that such case is verified, because yes, we could come up to the conclusion that this is an issue of unbalanced person, but the context is going into a different direction. I mean, 2 months ago, there was an attempt that almost killed the president, and there were many statements been made. The same intelligence community has said that there are attempts made by overseas radical forces. So we don't have a conclusion, but the context is always important in these situations.
There are those tonight who are already blaming what they're describing as Democrat rhetoric, suggestions that the Democrats have said that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. And because of accusations like that, they have brought about this violence being directed towards Donald Trump.
Look, I think people are numbed to this kind of accusation. Yes, it is an electoral year, season, month, I would say. But that's what the other camp said when Donald Trump made a speech before, before the infamous situation in Congress on January 6, 2021. So you have a narrative, a political narrative of leaders or factions who want to accuse the other side. Your narrative was responsible, or no, your narrative was responsible. At this point in time, we go to the bottom up. We want to know exactly who gave the money, who gave the instructions. We may not get to it, but that's what we need to have so that we can have a judgment. The cultural tension, as we all know, in the United States is very deep. There are divisions that are very deep. Yes, it would probably need less than this narrative to cause this violence. But that is not the first subject of research, because everybody has that narrative at this point in time. The subject of research is to know the actual facts on the ground.
And how are you suggesting that the situation can be calmed? Because from what I glean from what you are saying, that is the crux of it, really, that the political situation needs to calm down, that it shouldn't be as hot as it is now.
Usually in similar contexts, the appearance of both sides together will send the strongest message ever. I don't know if this is going to happen, but when you have a very divided society, the two sides appearing to, side by side, shaking hands, it doesn't matter who will start, will diffuse any possibility of urban violence. What concerns me is these kind of incidents, attempts of assassination, successful or not, at the end of the day, their impact is going to could create, did not create yet, but could create something that is close to urban disturbance or urban violence. That is what we need to focus on. And as I said, from what we understand how these things happen, the appearance, a phone call between one party to the other is the best thing to do. Not just issuing statements. Each one issue a statement. It's really in outreach that both will have to do so that the civil peace is in sight.
Well, there was that outreach in July from President Biden towards Donald Trump following that failed assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. But there has been a statement from the White House, and the President and Vice President have been briefed about the security incident at the Trump International Golf Course where former President Trump was golfing. They are relieved to know that he is safe. They will be kept regularly updated by their team. Further to that, Kamala Harris has also said that she's pleased that Donald Trump is safe and there's no place for violence in America.
True, but I mean, what the critics will say, that's the minimum. That's what a president, a vice president, the head of the ruling party, but also the other side, the Republicans should do the same. But this was violence, and violence needs a little bit more, 1 inch more than just issuing statements. And that's true for both sides. Imagine if it was the other way around. What needs to happen, in my humble view, is to let the public know that there is a solidarity on the process, the democratic process, because silence sometimes or a limited statement may not be very helpful. But they have their advisors, they're going to decide, and I'm sure there are communication between the two camps at this point in time.
You're a former advisor to Donald Trump. Have you been in touch with him this evening?
This evening, no. I am not of the close advisor I have been in the past, but of course we can hear from the campaign. We can hear from the people who are working with the campaign what's the ambiance. Obviously, it is tense. Obviously, they're taking this very seriously because, you know, the symbolism of it, the political dimension of it is that it's coming very close. One thing is to try to assassinate the head of the opposition at a rally. Another thing is to have this attempt happening at his home. That changes a lot of things. It's like attacking the president, with firearms at the White House. That is a matter of national security at this point in time. This is why the responsibility of both sides increases, because that is the kind of symbolism that could lead to further urban disturbancy if there is no fixing to it immediately by both sides.
In terms of your advice to Donald Trump, would that be to continue campaigning, the election coming up on November the 5th? Should he continue as he always has done?
Let me visit it from a different angle, which is, what is the goal of the shooters, of the networks, of anybody who was involved in this? Is to stop him. Stop him directly if he was, God forbid, killed, or stop him from moving, or stop him from communicating with his base. And as I expect former President Trump to do, as he did last time, is to say, I'm going to continue. Now, it's up to the agencies, the state agencies, the government, to provide him with additional or different type of protection. I don't think Mr. Trump will be now sitting in his home, shutting down the windows and not appearing except by video. I think he's going to continue. It's 59 days, maybe 58 days by now. And these are going to be very, very stressful days until elections are done.
Dr. Walid Fares, thank you very much for speaking to us, former advisor to Donald Trump. Well, just to confirm, the FBI are now classing this as an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Law enforcement officials said during the news conference that we brought to earlier that the gunman was in some bushes near the property, the line of the golf course. That's when Secret Service agents were clearing holes ahead of Donald Trump and they spotted a rifle barrel in the bushes. Agents engaged the gunman and fired at least 4 rounds of ammunition. That was around 1:30 p.m., 5:30 Greenwich Mean Time. The gunman then dropped his rifle and 2 backpacks. This is Sky News at 11 o'clock. A reminder of our top story this evening. The FBI are investigating what they believe is a new attempt on Donald Trump's life, with one person arrested in Florida after gunshots were reported near to where the former president was playing golf.